Hi and welcome at this video where I'm making a journal from some older club scrap papers. In the end of the video I will show the same clip and then tell you a bit more about the pages. But first I want to tell you what you need to make this album. It uses 12 by 12 paper, so 13.5 by 13.5 centimeters. And 2 pieces of chipboard, really thin chipboard. Maybe you can use some packaging. But I hope my English is clear enough and my accent is not noticeable. Let's get started. So I'm using 12 of these papers. They're some older club scrap papers and they're perfect for this journal. And I'm also going to grab my cutter. Oh, and the 2 pieces of chipboard. Those were actually the back from a sketchbook I owned, and I cut them up to become this journal. First I'm going to cut the papers for the front and the back of the journal, and I'm going to cut these at 8 by 10. I'm here deciding which part of the paper I'm going to use, which is sometimes the hardest. So moving it up so you can see better. So 8, and then I turn the paper and cut it at 10. And I'm going to repeat that with the other piece of paper. So again deciding which part I'm going to use. 8 by 10. And like I said, these are going to be the covers for the 2 pieces of the thin chipboard. So these fit nice and will have a nice border. Now I'm going to cut all the other pieces of paper. If you see me turning the paper, it's usually because I'm trying to decide which way to cut, and I think I'm also testing the grain of the paper at one point. I think I'm doing it here. I'm going to see which part of the paper actually flexes the best, and that's the one that does that best is the best one to put a crease in for the pages, so I decide on that. But I'm cutting them at 8 1/4, which is 21 centimeters. And I'm doing that for all the papers. I'm actually speeding up the video a bit now here. Yeah, you might have seen. Well, I'm cutting all this paper at 8 1/4 or 21 centimeters. The reason why I picked 21 centimeters here in the Netherlands, A4 is a very standard size. That's 21 centimeters high. So if I also want to incorporate some of those paper, that would be perfectly doable. I'm actually going to crease one paper now at 8 1/4 and at 6, and that will be a pocket page. I will finish that page with a little piece of scrap paper. You will have some scraps left over from this project. And I just take a tiny piece of about 1/2 inch by 3.5 inch, fold it in half and glue it to make the sides of the pockets. Now I'm going to make an envelope page. In this example I glued it on the inside of the front of the journal. If you use a translucent one, you actually do it slightly different. But I'm scoring now at 1/2 inch. I'm twisting the page and then I'm scoring at several points actually. I'm scoring at 5.5. And apparently I had to think a bit for this next step. And I finally decided I was going to do 5.5 and 11. I twisted it back. Remember, there was already a 1/2 inch score line here. So now I was deciding the height of my pocket. And I finally decided 8 3/8. Now I'm folding all the lines. And you can see that pocket is being formed. The small 1/2 inch one at the bottom. And back to regular folding. We will revisit that pocket later on. I'm first now scoring all the other pages at 6 inch. Now we're going to make the spine of the album. And I'm folding the paper in half and then folding it to the edge. Try to be as precise as possible. I later found out I was not as precise as I thought I was. But you keep actually folding the paper in half. And you keep doing that until you have a nice narrow harmonica. So folding it up and then using a bone folder or something similar to make nice creases. Once more, all the folds are now going to be folded in half. And sometimes that means you have to make a peak fold into a valley fold and vice versa. And you see me keep scoring and pushing it down with the bone folder. See, now I needed to flip a fold to make sure it goes in the correct. I actually learned this technique first from Trisha from Club Scrap, from one of the perfect projects that she had about, I want to say 15 or 20 years ago. So that's the spine. Now we're going to glue the chipboard to the up front and the back of the journal. I wish I had the bookbinding glue that I used to use from Club Scrap, but I'm using now a tacky glue, which is not as fast drying, and I actually would recommend using a tiny bit more glue in your project, but for time's sake I actually put on a little less than I normally would have. I do use a brush to sometimes distribute the glue a bit. It worked fine, but like I said, the bookbinding glue would be even better. I repeated it for the second piece and on to the next step, which is using the bone folder to score alongside all the sides and folding it over and telling the paper where it needs to go. Another technique I actually learned from Trisha Morris. Now I'm actually grabbing my scissors here and I'm cutting off all the corners, leaving a tiny bit near the points of the chipboard. And once again, I'm applying glue. I would actually recommend using a tiny bit more or use bookbinding and then using a brush and the bone folder. The bone folder is super helpful here to really push down the glue in this part. Well, super fast, all the other edges, applying glue, using bone folder. And I repeated that on both sides, the front and the back. I wish I flipped the papers, but I forgot. So now we have the spine that we already made, and we are applying that to the front and the back covers. Make sure you use a good amount of glue here. This is going to hold your book together. So I actually applied some more glue myself here too. And then align it with the front of your journal. And when you're sure it's in the correct position, I'm pushing it down and also using the bone folder to really make sure that it is secured. So that is the front. I'm also using the bone folder here Like I said, this is holding the journal together, so make sure it's sturdy. And repeat this step for the back of the journal. I'm speeding this up again. Liberal amount of glue, not oozing over of course, and lining it up. Sometimes, in this case, it's easier sometimes to hold in my hand, and then when I'm sure it's in the correct position, then I'm actually folding it all down. Removing excess glue if it does ooze out, and of course use the Bonefolder or something similar to really make it super sturdy. So what I'm doing now, I actually want to the harmonica, the accordion, I'm actually gluing all the back creases, I'm gluing those down. So I'm applying glue, sometimes using my brush to distribute it, and that's just because I don't want it to be super flexible. I just want the little creases in the middle of the journal and not on the back. So I'm actually gluing down here all the accordion folds, the ones that are on the outside. Once again, I'm using a good amount of glue and using my brush to make sure it's everywhere on the fold. I'm actually skipped the part here, and the final one. Brushing, gluing, pushing down, and then the base of the journal is done, and it's actually time to put the pages in. Part of this step is actually missing, unfortunately, but hopefully you do see me putting in most of the pages. I'm actually creasing here again, making sure all is nice and sturdy before I start putting the pages in. The first page I will actually put over the chipboard and against the spine. Before I do that, I actually am going to attach some ribbon. I'm cutting it. I don't remember what length I cut, but you see what works for you. So I apply some glue, and this will help me to close the journal when it's done. So do that before you put your pages in. There were times that I forgot, and actually in a previous journal, and that's when I decided to put pockets over the front and the back so I could hide the ribbon behind that. So first page going in, and like I said, that one is actually going to cover the chipboard. So I'm now applying glue to the whole back, putting a nice amount in there, and of course also over the ribbon. I felt there wasn't enough glue, so I actually applied a little bit more for this step. And then I put in the last page, and that's covering the back and is also the last page. I could also have put the pocket here. I decided to do that one in the front. And here I was deciding what I was going to do. I'm actually counting how many pages I could put in there. And I was first going to put the page in, and then I decided to not do that and put the pocket there, as you will see in the last clip and the first clip. So talking about the pocket, that one I'm actually now just going to cut off the excess pieces. I'm only leaving a tiny bit at the bottom and on the side, cutting away. Also the flap I'm going to cutting at a slight angle because I like that better. I'm first cutting this part straight, and then I decided I was going to get a little plate and make like a little circle there. So here I'm going to find a plate nearby. And I'm using that as a guide to cut the little shape out. I just felt that would give a better access to whatever I would put inside this pocket. And cutting a tiny bit more at an angle. Now I'm applying glue and had some trouble with the glue. So that's the bottom piece. This is the side. Could actually be doesn't need to be this wide of an overlap, but that was just how the paper worked best. So this is my pretty pocket, which I'm pretty happy about. Yeah, and then I did find out the rest of the gluing down was not filmed, unfortunately. But each time I applied some glue to the spine and attached a page to it. I'm sorry that is missing. I will try to incorporate it in another video. Like I said, this was also a test. And if you have questions and if you're like, yes, I would really like to have a slightly better video, and then you let me know. Thank you.